Okay, let's unpack this. If you live or work anywhere near, well, the biggest rail system in North America, you know how fast things can go sideways when there's talk of a strike? We're talking about millions of commuters, maybe you listening right now, and the potential for just complete chaos in daily life.
Yeah, it's a huge deal.
So today, we are diving deep into something very immediate, a real-world action from the top, an executive order. This one's dated September 16th, 2025, from President Donald J. Trump.
Right.
And look, the text itself, it sounds pretty dry, very bureaucratic, but the mission, it's simple. Keep the trains running. Specifically, stop a labor dispute shutting down the Long Island Railroad, the LIRR.
Yeah, keep the peace, essentially.
Exactly. So our goal today isn't just to, read the document out loud. It's to cut through that government speak and explain what this federal move is, why it was well required, and what it means for the LIRR, for the unions, and critically, for all the people who rely on that train every single day.
And what's really interesting here, I think, is that this action, it wasn't really a choice. It's like activating a very specific, almost specialized federal tool.
Okay.
It's the creation of an emergency board, or EB, as they often call it.
Yeah.
And it falls under this existing rule book for transport labor, the Railway Labor Act.
An EB. Okay.
Yeah. And, if you picture this whole thing as like a high-stakes negotiation game, the emergency board is basically the government acting under law, stepping in and hitting a kind of federally mandated timeout button.
A timeout. Okay, that makes sense. Stops any strikes or lockouts.
For a set period, yes. That's the idea.
So the stakes are clearly high. Who exactly are the players in this specific fight that needed the president to step in?
Well, on one side, you've got the carrier, right? The Long Island Railroad Company. But on the other side, it's not just one single group. That's what makes these things so complex sometimes. The dispute involves employees represented by 5 different labor organizations.
5. Wow. Okay, that detail, 5 different unions, that feels really important. It shows just how complicated running something like the LIRR is operationally.
Oh, absolutely.
You need the engineers, you need the signal crews, the maintenance folks. Everyone has to be working together.
Exactly. And the source document, the order, it actually names them. And it really highlights, all the critical parts of the system. You've got the Transportation Communications Union,
Okay.
the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen, that's BLET,
Right.
the Brotherhood of Railroad Signalmen, BRS, the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, IMERE, and the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, the IBEW.
So a real cross-section.
Yeah. If even one of those groups walks out, the whole system can just grind to a halt.
Which brings us to the why. Why this specific process? Why not just, standard union negotiations like in other industries?
That's the key, isn't it? See, rail and airlines, they operate under this different set of rules, the Railway Labor Act, the RLA. It's totally separate from, say, the laws governing a factory or something. The RLA's #1 priority is preventing service disruptions. Why? Because a rail shutdown, especially in a huge commuter hub like New York, well, it could paralyze commerce, interstate commerce, and cause immediate, serious economic damage.
Right, the ripple effects would be massive.
Exactly. So the RLA makes the parties go through these really long mandatory steps: negotiation, then mediation. Usually the National Mediation Board, the NMB, runs that part. The fact that they reached the point of requesting this emergency board, it means they went through all those required steps. The NMB mediation, it didn't work. They couldn't reach an agreement.
So this emergency board is basically the last stop before chaos.
Pretty much, yeah. It's a final mechanism.
And this is where it gets, like you said, really interesting.
Yeah.
Because the president wasn't just deciding, I think I'll intervene now. The executive order itself says that parties involved in the dispute who are allowed to by the RLA, they specifically asked for this under the law.
That's exactly right. The law, Section 9AC of the RLA in this case, it dictates that the president shall appoint an emergency board. It's not optional once requested properly.
Shall appoint, not may.
Correct. It's a mandated duty. It's designed specifically to protect, the flow of commerce in the economy when these absolutely critical negotiations just break down completely.
Okay, so the board has to be created. Let's talk about its structure then. It's not a permanent thing, right? How does it work? What's its job?
Right. It's temporary. The order states it became effective very quickly. 12:01 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, September 18th, 2025.
Okay, just 2 days after the order.
Very fast.
Yeah.
And it's made up of 3 people, a chair and 2 other members, all appointed by the president. Think of it like a temporary panel of impartial experts.
And impartial is the key word there. I assume they can't have any, like, skin in the game.
Absolutely critical. The order makes a point of stressing this Section 1. No member can be pecuniarily or otherwise interested, is the legal phrase.
Meaning
they can't have any financial stake or, any professional history that ties them to the LIRR or any of those 5 unions. They have to be neutral. Like an investigative jury, sort of. Their only job is to look at the facts, the demands, the offers, and then suggest a fair solution.
Okay. And they have to do this fast, right? I imagine they're looking at potentially years of back and forth, complex contracts, financial data.
Unbelievably fast. The timeline is incredibly tight. The board has to investigate and report back to the president with its findings and recommendations within just 30 days of its creation.
30 days. Wow.
Yeah, 30 days. So they need to do this rapid-fire deep dive into everything. Pay scales, healthcare, benefits, work rules, the whole economic picture of the LIRR and the dispute.
30 days to sort all that out and propose something that affects, well, an entire region's economy and daily life. That is intense.
And it really is.
Okay, but let's shift to the immediate impact. For the listener, the person just trying to get to work, the really critical piece here, the main function of this executive order right now, is the stability it buys, this 120-day freeze period.
That's exactly right. That 120-day period, it's a mandatory cooling off time. And it's the guarantee, really, of stable service for commuters. It starts from the moment the board is created, so September 18th, 2025, for 4 months after that.
4 months.
The RLA requires that, and I'm quoting roughly here, no change in the conditions out of which the disputes arose shall be made by the parties unless they both agree.
Okay, let's break that down. No change by the parties.
Mm-hmm.
So this means the unions cannot strike.
Correct. No strikes are allowed during this 120-day window.
And the LIRR, they can't just impose new terms or lock out workers.
Correct. Again, no lockouts, no unilateral changes to wages, rules, working conditions, nothing that was part of the dispute. Everything stays exactly as it was on September 18th. Status quo is frozen.
So basically, everything just stops for 4 months, negotiation-wise.
Well, the dispute actions stop. The trains keep running. That's the whole point. This is the legal lever that ensures your commute, or good shipments using that line, continues without interruption while this whole high-stakes process plays out. The feds have essentially bought 120 days of guaranteed operational peace.
Right. So the public is protected.
Yeah.
Temporarily, at least.
Mm-hmm.
That time frame was interesting, though. You said the board reports back in 30 days.
That's right.
But the freeze is 120 days. So that leaves 90 days after the report comes out.
Exactly. That's crucial. The 30-day report, that's the board's recommendation. It's their impartial take on what a fair settlement could look like.
Okay.
Then, the remaining 90 days of that cooling off period, that's when the real pressure is on the LIRR and the unions to negotiate seriously, using the board's report as a roadmap, hopefully.
Using the report as a basis for talks. Got it.
Yeah, ideally it helps bridge the gap.
Let's talk a bit about the mechanics of the board itself. You said it's temporary. How temporary? When does it actually, wrap up?
It's purely mission-based. The board officially terminates the moment it submits that 30-day report to the president.
Ah, okay. So once the recommendations are in, its job is done.
Precisely. Their specific task is complete. Then the focus shifts back to the parties themselves and the National Mediation Board, who will likely oversee or assist the subsequent talks.
And all the paperwork. I mean, they must review a ton of sensitive documents, financials, proposals. Where does all that stuff go?
Good question. During the investigation, those files are technically records of the office of the president. But once the board dissolves, the order specifies that physical custody transfers to the National Mediation Board.
Back to the NMB. Why them?
Well, the NMB was involved in the mediation before the EB was created, remember? So they have the history. They'll be the main federal agency keeping tabs on the negotiations that happened after the report, during that remaining 90-day window. So it makes sense they hold the records.
Right, continuity. And one last administrative point, who pays for all this? Setting up the board, publishing the order.
The executive order notes that the costs for publishing the order itself fall to the Department of Transportation.
DOT, okay.
Which kind of underlines that the government sees this primarily through an infrastructure and commerce lens, not just purely as a labor issue. It's about keeping transportation moving.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. What are the main takeaways here?
Well, I think the core thing is...
We've seen that on September 16th, President Trump used a very specific tool from the Railway Labor Act playbook, this emergency board.
Right.
He had to, legally, once requested. And it was aimed squarely at stopping a potential shutdown at the LIRR involving those 5 key unions.
And the immediate effect, the thing that matters most to people right now, is that 120-day guarantee of operational peace.
Right. No strikes, no lockouts. Commuters can breathe easy, at least until mid-January 2026. It forces everyone to the table, gives time for investigation, and hopefully serious negotiation.
Investigation transparency, yeah.
But, and this is the critical point, isn't it? The kicker we want to leave everyone thinking about. Go on.
This emergency board report, it's not magic. It's non-binding.
That's the crucial detail. It only offers recommendations, suggestions. It carries weight, public pressure, the weight of impartial findings, but it cannot legally force the LIRR or the unions to accept the terms.
So the report comes out in 30 days.
Right.
But the real tension doesn't necessarily peak then. It peaks when that 120-day timeout clock finally runs out.
Exactly. That mid-January 2026 date. If the LIRR and the unions still haven't reached a deal by then, even with the board's recommendations on the table, well, the threat of a strike or a lockout comes right back. Instantly. The freeze ends.
So the clock is ticking, first on the report and then on that final deadline.
It absolutely is. If you're interested in how this plays out, definitely keep an eye on updates from the National Mediation Board. They'll be tracking the progress or lack thereof after this initial 120 days.